The most devastating lie we are sold in the modern age is not about money or success. It is the lie of emotional inevitability. You believe your stress, your anger, and your panic are simply what happens when life gets hard. You've accepted that the market shift, the difficult client, or the harsh word from a spouse must, by definition, destabilize you. You are, in effect, a raft on a chaotic sea, completely at the mercy of the wind and the current. The truth, the one the great Stoics hammered out over centuries, is that your internal state is not a default setting. It is a skill. And, like any skill, it is built through rigorous practice and understanding. Yet, I will tell you this. Most men live their entire lives at level 1, controlled by their emotions and external circumstances. They are masters of the external world, of business, of strategy, of competition, but absolute slaves in their own minds. They have built an empire on a foundation of sand. Only a precious few, I could estimate no more than 3% of those who even try to improve, ever reach level 3, the state of the iron mind. Which level are you operating from right now? The answer is not in your bank account, the size of your house, or your title. It is in the quality of your most difficult moments. It is in the 1 second between a stimulus and your reaction. For years, I was the walking embodiment of that level 1 man. A highly successful entrepreneur in the volatile tech sector, I had the corner office, the wealth, and the recognition. By all external measures, I had won. But internally, I was a wreck. I was plagued by chronic anxiety. My reaction to any market dip was pure, unadulterated panic, and a simple disagreement could trigger a blast of reactive anger. My success was a gilded cage because I had absolutely no control over the most important asset I possessed: my mind. My crucible moment was not an external collapse. It was a severe burnout that landed me in the hospital and simultaneously cost me a key business relationship. Lying there, stripped of my external armor, I realized my entire life was a lie built on the premise that if I just hustled harder, the outside world would finally grant me peace. I was wrong. I was forced to confront my chaotic inner world and realized I needed not a new strategy for business, but a new operating system for my life. That's when I turned to the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. This framework I'm about to lay out for you is the systematic blueprint for that transformation. It is a hierarchy of progress. We are not just talking about temporary motivation here. We are talking about forging an unbreakable inner citadel. It's not about avoiding the storm, but about becoming the unmoving lighthouse in the middle of it. The transformation involves moving from a state of being an emotional reactor to becoming a deliberate architect of your mental fortitude. The path begins at level 1, the state you must first recognize to escape. You asked me to continue, which is the first step, the desire to see the whole map. Let's move immediately to the first and most crowded territory on that map. This is the state of default human operation. Think of the level 1 mind not as a flawed mind, but as an unexamined one. It is entirely built around the principle of external validation and control. You are a puppet, and the strings are held by everything outside of you: the stock market, your rival's success, the weather, and what a stranger posts about you online. The signature trait of level 1 is emotional volatility. Your mood is a daily weather report dictated by external events. You are up when things are going your way and devastated when they're not. You don't have emotions. Your emotions have you. Seeking external validation. Your sense of self-worth is determined by applause, recognition, and approval from others. You are constantly people-pleasing, editing your opinions, and exhausting yourself trying to manage other people's perceptions of you. Controlled by circumstances. You see yourself as a victim of bad luck, bad timing, or bad people. When a setback hits, your immediate response is to assign blame to something or someone outside yourself. You mistake your preferences for necessities. Defensive reactions. Any perceived criticism is treated as an attack on your character, triggering a defensive, often aggressive, response. The ego, unprotected by reason, lashes out violently when threatened. We are not victims of circumstance, we are victims of our own inertia. It's comfortable here, in a perverse way. Blaming the outside world is easier than confronting the chaos inside. When I was at this level, one of my worst behaviors was my anxiety over investment returns. If a project was doing well, I'd experience a brief, shallow euphoria. But the moment the numbers dipped, even a fractional percentage, I was instantly pulled under. I would lose sleep, snap at my team, and make panic-driven decisions that often made the problem worse. Why? Because I had tethered my self-worth to the net worth. I saw the market not as a neutral force of supply and demand, but as a judgment on me. Seneca warned us about this 2,000 years ago. The man who is not disturbed by the rattle of arms will be unnerved by the rustle of a gown. When you live for applause, you will die by the criticism. In daily life, level 1 looks like this. You hit the snooze button 5 times because your schedule is a reaction to your exhaustion, not a deliberate plan. You find yourself in endless, low-level arguments with family because you lack the mental distance to pause and choose a constructive response. You procrastinate on important tasks because you are waiting for the feeling of motivation, instead of using your reason to command action. Reflective questions. When you receive unexpected bad news, what is your gut reaction? A calm assessment or a surge of anger and panic? Are you chasing wealth because you genuinely desire freedom, or because you desperately need a shield to protect a fragile ego? To climb out of this level, you must understand that the problem is not your life. The problem is your judgment of your life. As Epictetus taught, it is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance. The reactive mind is constantly mislabeling mere inconveniences as catastrophes. The great work of the Stoics is the work of disentanglement, separating what happens from what you think about what happens. It requires a rigorous, demanding accountability to yourself. This transition is challenging because it requires you to surrender your most treasured comfort, the excuse of victimhood. The commitment you show in typing "continue" is the fuel needed for the ascent. The goal is not to be a philosopher on a mountaintop. The goal is to be an anchor in the marketplace, which means we must move from the chaos of level 1 to the intentionality of level 2. If level 1 is the state of being ruled, level 2 is the state of ruling the self. The disciplined mind is built on one core revelation. You cannot control events, but you have absolute veto power over your response to them. This is not a sudden epiphany, it is a long, grinding, and necessary commitment to practice. You are learning to erect the scaffolding of your inner citadel. At level 2, your focus shifts entirely from managing the world to managing your attention. Learning control. You insert a deliberate gap between the stimulus and your reaction. When the market plunges, your first instinct is no longer panic. It is to observe the panic in your chest, name it, and then apply reason. This pause is where freedom lives. Building habits of virtue. You understand that your character is the sum of your daily habits. You stop waiting for motivation and start designing systems. Routines, like the morning preparation or the evening self-assessment, become non-negotiable, not because they feel good, but because they forge mental resilience. Practicing detachment. You actively rehearse potential setbacks not to invite them, but to strip them of their power. You begin to define downside not as failure, but as an opportunity for practice. The hardest part about level 2 is that it feels like work, and often boredom. It lacks the high-stakes thrill of level 1 reactivity. Progress is incremental, measured in small, quiet victories. A harsh email received and not immediately replied to a temptation for distraction resisted. I transitioned to level 2 by focusing intensely on 2 things: my mornings and my boundaries. For years in my level 1 life, my mornings were reactive, grabbing my phone, checking the market news, and immediately starting the day in a state of catch-up anxiety. My first intentional Level 2 practice was simple. Do not touch the phone for the first 60 minutes. Instead, I used that time for the enchiridion of my life. I would review my core values, write down what I could control that day, and practice the stoic technique of viewing my day ahead as if it had already gone wrong. If a major deal fell through, what would be the worst, truly bad thing? Losing money, yes. But the truly bad thing, the only thing that could damage me, would be losing my character by responding poorly. 1. Morning routines. This is your psychological declaration of independence. It sets your internal agenda before the external world can set its own. Start with an act of intentionality. Reading, silent reflection, or exercise. 2. Boundary setting. Level 2 understands that no is the clearest expression of an inner purpose. You stop people-pleasing and start managing your energy and time as precious, non-renewable assets. 3. Emotional regulation. When an emotion strikes, you train yourself to stop and apply a logical analysis. Acknowledge the feeling. Distinguish between the event and your judgment. Intervene with a reasonable response. Reflective questions. When a commitment feels difficult, do you seek an excuse, or do you seek a greater reason? Have you defined your core values as clear, actionable behaviors, or are they simply nice-sounding ideals that collapse under pressure? This level is where you master the tools. You are no longer just reading Epictetus, you are doing Epictetus. The disciplined mind is a work in progress, but it knows the direction of travel and it holds the rudder firm. But Level 2 is still vulnerable. It relies heavily on effort. It requires constant vigilance. The true mastery lies beyond. You have navigated the path from the reactive mind, which is defined by external chaos, and through the disciplined mind, which is defined by internal effort. Now we arrive at the ultimate destination of the stoic practitioner, the state of the iron mind. The iron mind is not a mind without feelings. That is a common misinterpretation. It is a mind without turmoil. It is the state where the principles of reason and virtue are no longer a difficult, constant struggle, but have become instinct. Level 2 is defined by effort. Level 3 is defined by being. The heavy lifting of habit formation is done, and the entire system runs with profound, quiet efficiency. At this level, you achieve a philosophical state known as apatheia, a term often mistranslated as apathy. In Stoic context, it means freedom from unreasoning passion. You are not unfeeling, you are simply unruled by emotions that lack logic. Complete mastery. The iron mind fully and finally accepts the Stoic dichotomy of control. You understand, on a cellular level, what is up to you and what is not. Your peace is non-negotiable because it is wholly internal. All external events, loss, praise, criticism, market chaos, are classified as adiaphora, or indifference, possessing no power to affect your core character. Unshakable presence. You do not merely practice the pause, you live in the pause. Your default state is that of the calm observer. You see the stress, the potential anger, or the anxiety rise, but you do not identify with it. It is simply a datum, information passing through the system, like a cloud passing across the sun. Clarity of purpose. Your reason is your commander. Decisions are not made based on momentary desire or fear, but on a clear, established hierarchy of virtue, justice, temperance, courage, and wisdom. Daily life becomes dramatically simpler because the answer to most questions is simply, what is the virtuous thing to do? I mentioned my journey from the chaotic tech entrepreneur. The true test of my iron mind came years after I began my practice. We faced a significant legal challenge, one that threatened to entirely dissolve the company I had spent 2 decades building. At Level 1, this news would have sent me into a destructive spiral of anger, blame, and sleepless nights. But at Level 3, the response was different. The initial physical jolt was there, the cold knot in the stomach, but it was instantly neutralized by logic. I saw the event for what it was, an external force, an act of God, indifferent to my feelings. My reaction was not panic, but a clear three-part strategy. 1. Accept the fact of the loss. 2. Determine the best course of action. 3. Focus all energy on execution and nothing else. The outcome was still painful, but the internal cost was zero. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The iron mind is the power to revoke the estimate." The failure became a case study in composure, not a chapter on personal ruin. The iron mind is not a permanent status, it is a permanent practice. The difference is the effortlessness of the effort. Maintenance here means turning core stoic practices into automatic, almost subconscious rituals. 1. The view from above. Regularly stepping back to see your problems in the grand context of space and time. This demolishes the ego's tendency to catastrophize. 2. The daily audit. Not a simple task list review, but a rigorous ethical examination. Where did my reason fail? Where was I reactive? Where did I miss an opportunity to practice virtue? 3. Active gratitude. A constant awareness of what you do possess and control, reinforcing the idea that sufficiency is found within, not without. Reflective questions. If everything you own and every title you hold were taken away tomorrow, what internal asset would remain? Is your commitment to virtue conditional on things going well, or is it an unwavering first principle of your daily decision-making? To reach level 3, you must stop trying to be stoic and simply be the person whose actions reflect wisdom and self-command. This is the synthesis of logic and life, yielding the ultimate human freedom. To climb the hierarchy of mastery, you must know exactly where your footing is. You cannot navigate a pitch-black room without turning on the light. The next step in this philosophical journey is to shine a deliberate, rational light on your current state. A true Stoic is always a ruthless self-examiner. We are not interested in flattering half-truths, but in the diagnostic reality of your inner world. The iron mind begins with radical honesty. I have distilled the transition from level 1 to level 3 into 15 critical questions. These are not academic queries, they are real-world pulse checks of your mental operating system. As you read them, observe the immediate, unfiltered mental response. That flicker of defensiveness or uncomfortable recognition is your answer. Answer these by placing yourself primarily in level 1, level 2, or level 3. Reactivity and external locus of control. 1. When you receive a harsh or critical email, is your impulse to immediately fire back a defense, or is your first action to close the email and attend to it later? 2. Does your mood on Monday morning significantly depend on the stock market performance or the news cycle from the preceding weekend? 3. Do you routinely edit your public opinions or hold back from expressing a conviction because you are primarily concerned with maintaining a clean, approved social image? 4. When you experience a significant delay, a traffic jam, a canceled flight, a failed delivery, is your internal state dominated by frustration, or do you instantly accept the event and use the time for constructive thought? 5. Do you view the failure of a project primarily as bad luck or the fault of a team member, rather than as a consequence of internal, controllable factors like planning or preparation? Discipline and emotional regulation. 6. Do you consistently adhere to a non-negotiable morning routine that focuses on internal preparation before engaging with external demands? 7. Can you calmly sit with an intense negative emotion, such as jealousy, fear, or anxiety, and analyze its flawed logic without being compelled to immediately act on it or distract yourself from it? 8. When a personal boundary is violated by a family member or colleague, Are you able to clearly and calmly articulate a no without feeling guilt or fear of conflict? 9. Do you proactively practice negative visualization by setting aside time to rationally consider the temporary loss of your greatest possessions or relationships? 10. Is your work output determined by the amount of time you spend or by a focused, protected block of time dedicated to your highest value tasks? Mastery and internal locus of control. 11. If the worst-case scenario were to happen today, a major financial loss or professional betrayal, do you know with absolute certainty that your personal honor and character would remain completely untouched? 12. Do you find genuine satisfaction in the effort and process of a difficult task, regardless of the final external outcome? 13. Is the primary driver behind your most important decisions an unwavering commitment to virtue? Or is it the pursuit of comfort, pleasure, or public acclaim? 14. When faced with adversity, do you see it first and foremost as a training exercise specifically tailored to test and strengthen your inner principles? 15. Do you go to sleep each night having conducted a rigorous, honest, ethical review of your day, using that self-assessment to course-correct for the following morning? Take an honest tally. If you answered Level 1 to the majority of the first set of questions, you are still operating from the default factory setting. If you scored predominantly Level 2 on the second set, you are a sincere student who is building the scaffolding. If your answers tilt heavily toward Level 3 in the final section, you are a practitioner who has forged significant inner strength. The point is not to feel shame about Level 1, but to feel the demand of Level 3. Your current level is simply a diagnosis. The real work is in the prescription. The diagnosis is complete. You know where you stand. But diagnosis without prescription is just an exercise in anxiety. The philosophical work is fundamentally practical. We must now move to the customized action plan. The great Stoics didn't just contemplate the good life, they provided a specific blueprint for building it. Your personalized blueprint depends entirely on your current state. The actions for the man sinking in the chaos of Level 1 are entirely different from the maintenance routine required by the man standing firm at Level 3. Do not attempt to skip steps. You must master the foundation before you can build the walls. Your primary task is to establish a firewall between yourself and the external chaos. You are not ready for deep philosophical work. You need basic survival tools. Your focus is on creating distance and halting the damage. The 30-second rule? For any stimulus that triggers a negative emotion, a text, an email, a piece of news, you are forbidden from reacting for 30 seconds. Do not reply. Do not speak. Simply breathe and name the emotion. I feel anger. This is your first step in separating yourself, the observer, from the emotion, the observed. The triage of control. At the start of every day, draw a simple line down a piece of paper. On the left, list things you control. On the right, list things you do not control. Glance at this list whenever you feel turmoil. If the problem is on the right, you must instantly and ruthlessly drop it. The anchor habit. Choose one non-negotiable routine to start your day, lasting no more than 15 minutes. This could be 2 minutes of cold water, 5 minutes of walking, or 10 minutes of reading. This is your first deliberate, rational act, and it proves to yourself that you are in command, not your comfort or your emotions. The Level 1 demand. Your duty is to stop being a slave to comfort and impulse. The transition to Level 2 requires you to treat your current mental state as an emergency that demands immediate, structured intervention. You have the tools now, you must sharpen them until they are extensions of your will. Your primary task is to move from conscious effort to subconscious competence. You need to test your resilience and deepen your philosophical understanding. The Memento Mori drill. Set aside 10 minutes each week for rigorous contemplation of your own mortality, or the impermanence of something you cherish, your health, a relationship, your business. This is not morbid. It is the most powerful tool for prioritizing what truly matters and trivializing what doesn't. This is where discipline becomes purpose. Voluntary discomfort. Intentionally choose one small discomfort daily. Skip the elevator for the stairs, take a cold shower, or fast from a favorite food or entertainment for a few hours. This is Seneca's exercise, training the soul to be robust by showing it that it can endure minor hardships with ease. It inoculates you against the shock of major ones. Deep self-assessment. Elevate your evening review. Don't just list where you failed, analyze the philosophical error that led to the failure. Did I act unjustly? Did I lack temperance in my eating? Did fear prevent a courageous decision? Use the 4 stoic virtues as your diagnostic grid. The Level 2 demand. Your duty is to integrate principle into action until it requires zero internal debate. The friction between your rational self and your impulsive self must be systematically eliminated. You are in a state of mastery, but even iron can rust. Your task is to maintain the purity of your intention and deepen your use of your inner peace for the good of the world. The goal shifts from personal achievement to universal contribution. Service as practice. Seek out opportunities to use your composure and clarity to serve others. Mentor someone in chaos. Take on the most complex and emotionally charged issues in your business, or stand as a pillar of calm in your community. Your strength is a resource to be deployed, not hoarded. Philosophical abstraction. Regularly revisit the source texts not for new techniques, but to deepen your appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things. Meditate on your place in the universe. This ensures your internal control does not become arrogant isolation. Erosion check. Find the new edge of discomfort. If the cold shower is easy, try a several-day fast. If business crises don't bother you, challenge the most deeply held assumption about your own identity. You must actively seek out the friction to ensure your principles remain sharp and tested. The Level 3 demand. Your duty is to perpetually test your own character and deploy your inner citadel for the benefit of humankind, realizing that the truly self-mastered man is never satisfied with mere personal peace. We are nearing the summit. You have the diagnosis and the prescriptive steps. The final, crucial phase of this instruction is the understanding that the levels of mastery are not merely a philosophical concept, they are the foundation for a life lived with unwavering purpose. This is the difference between a life of reaction and a life of design. The ultimate power of the iron mind is that it frees up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy that was previously consumed by internal conflict, worry, and defensive behavior. This liberated energy is the fuel you deploy into your purpose. Many people, even successful ones, operate with a low-grade anxiety because their purpose is ill-defined, or worse, dependent on external metrics like net worth or public acclaim. The moment those external metrics falter, the man falters. For the Stoics, the concept of a fulfilling life was rooted in oikeiosis, often translated as appropriation or self-ownership. It is the process of first caring for oneself and then extending that care outward to humanity. True purpose is therefore not a job title. It is the virtuous application of your uniquely developed skills for the common good. At Level 1, your purpose is survival, distraction, and the avoidance of pain. Your energy is spent on trying to feel good. At Level 2, your purpose is self-improvement and discipline. Your energy is spent on trying to be better. At Level 3, your purpose is clear, external service rooted in internal strength. Your energy is spent on doing good, regardless of the cost or outcome to your personal comfort. When I successfully navigated my business burnout and rebuilt my internal system, I didn't return to the chaotic pursuit of endless growth. My purpose refined itself from winning the market to teaching the architecture of inner freedom. The iron mind made this shift possible because I had stripped away the need for external validation, which allowed my genuine calling, mentorship, to emerge. Seneca speaks of the highest purpose being served with philosophical indifference to the outcome. Does this mean you don't care about the results? Absolutely not. You care intensely about the effort, the strategy, and the virtue of your actions, but you are indifferent to the final external result because that result is not up to you. A builder with the iron mind cares deeply about the quality of the materials and the precision of the structure, but he does not let the public's judgment of the finished building, which is adiaphora, dictate his internal peace. This mindset is what protects you from the devastation of failure. When the project collapses, the level 3 man suffers no internal injury because the purpose was in the doing, not in the receiving. His character remains whole, ready to re-engage with the next challenge. Reflective questions. If all external recognition for your work vanished tomorrow, would you continue your current primary pursuit with the same intensity? Have you defined your purpose in terms of what you can control, or what you must lobby the world for? To anchor your purpose against all turbulence, you must first forge the unbreakable anchor itself, the iron mind. We arrive now at the final principle. You understand the architecture of the 3 levels, you have diagnosed your position, and you possess the action plan for ascent. The final truth you must absorb is about the nature of this journey. It is eternal. The iron mind is not a destination you reach and then retire from it, is the state of continuous, rigorous, self-imposed training. The greatest danger to the man who achieves level 3 is the illusion of finality. Mastery, in any true philosophical sense, is not a noun, it is a verb. The world is a perpetual motion machine, and it will relentlessly test the integrity of your inner citadel. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The ultimate enemy of the iron mind is not external failure, but internal complacency. 1. The fading of novelty. The practices that were difficult, and sharpening at level 2, the morning routine, the negative visualization, can become rote, meaningless rituals at level 3. If you perform the practice without the intentionality behind it. 2. The arrogance of success. When you begin to handle crises with composure, the ego, the eternal saboteur, whispers that you are special or exempt from failure. This arrogance leads to a fatal reduction in vigilance, which is why I demand the erosion check at level 3. You must actively seek out the challenges that test your deepest held principles. 3. The shifting battlefield. The chaos you faced at 30 was likely professional ambition and financial insecurity. The chaos you face at 60 is more likely the fragility of health, the loss of loved ones, or the reality of your own finite time. The iron mind must adapt its training to the terrain of the present moment. Your life is your ultimate text. Every interaction, every moment of difficulty, and every small success is data for your self-correction. You are the architect, the builder, and the sole quality control inspector of your mind. The goal is not to eliminate pain, that is impossible, but to eliminate suffering. Suffering is the pain that is compounded by a flawed judgment. The iron mind does not panic when the wave hits, it simply observes the velocity, maintains its posture, and prepares for the next set. Start today. If you are at level 1, your immediate, non-negotiable task is the 30-second rule. If you are at level 2, begin the rigorous weekly practice of voluntary discomfort. If you are at level 3, go out and serve with the quiet, unshakable strength you have forged. This is the map. The journey is yours.